So let's talk about it. 2025 elections. So much is going on. We're about to elect the first socialist mayor in New York City. Is about to go down. And let's talk about it. I want you to talk about it real quick because what's wrong with having a socialist mayor, a socialist city? We're talking about the government helping out its citizens. In theory, they say bad things about socialism, but I don't know. In practice, this is going to be helpful to many people that want the government to put their hands in and help them out. Let's be honest. Socialism, they talk bad about it, but in practice, we're about to see it happen. Let's take a look. In New York City, it's going to go down. We're going to get our first socialist, and he's about to win. Let's be honest. You know how elections are? It's all a maybe. Let's see what happens after everybody votes, but they are predicting that Mandami is about to win. Democratic Socialist. So what should we expect? He said expect free buses. That's one thing. No more rent hikes. So that's it. You don't have to worry that every year your rent goes up, I don't know, $20, $50. But little by little, $20 every year or $25, it adds up. So people don't like it. Groceries. Government run groceries. That should be good. All right. Everything's going to be cheaper. No more going hungry. Because the government is going to go all out and help. So nothing wrong with socialism, if you ask me. Let's see what they're saying at MSNBC.
That you'll also notice when he does embrace fully a candidate, he does so strategically. And a lot of times those people perform better in the counties where he performed better. It's clear tonight that was a problem for her. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing is what Steve pointed out beautifully, which is this is a Democrat state electing a Democrat candidate who's going to be a Democrat governor. I don't think that's really news.
Yeah, Ashley, Virginia is made up a state made up of a lot of federal workers. As I was pointing out with Steve there, you got the Doge cuts, you have the federal shutdown as well. A lot of those politics play into how people vote in Virginia. I want to put up a stat here that we're getting from some of the exit polls. The economy, the number one issue at 49%, followed here. What else do we have here? 46%. This is a different graphic than we were talking about, but we should jump to the next one about the economy in the second question, but it's okay. Anyways, the economy was the reason people were voting. What can we draw from that with President Trump?
Well, I mean, what I'm looking and what I'm saying is that this is a 5-alarm fire for the president. Not only are people in Virginia, but in New Jersey as well, saying that the economy is not only tanking and bad, but it's their driver for turnout. I mean, NBC's poll just recently showed that the president is down on every category, every issue from corruption to cost of living to tariffs to electricity cost. He's down across.
So how true is it that the economy is down and it's because of Trump? I don't know. It depends on what media or what news division you're looking at.
Across the board as it relates to the economy. Hogan and I were just arguing about this back and forth. Republicans usually beat Democrats on the issue of the economy. Now NBC's poll is showing that they're down 20 points. This is a problem for the president. And I will say, I won, I was on Obama's campaign in 2008, and we won Virginia for the first time then. The interesting thing about Virginia is 3 states in 1. So we now focus on Northern Virginia, which we expect Democrats to have very high turnout, which he did. But what we're seeing now, I'm hearing from the National Governors Association as well as from the campaign, that turnout is low in the Republican counties. That part of Virginia, the smaller part, Roanoke, those counties, those turnout there is low. And that really, to me, signals a much larger problem for the president. Not only do you have people saying that the economy is bad.
Not really. We're looking at Virginia. That's a blue state. So Democrats are expected to win in general. So the fact that this lady was Spamberger is beating the Republican candidate, can I say her name? Early Sears. That's expected. It will be a blowout if the Republican wins. So this election right here is expected. So I don't know why Is the commentator blowing it up? Like, wow.
voting on the economy, but now he can't even keep his coalition together, and Republican voters are not turning out.
Maybe, but maybe he couldn't motivate his base because he wasn't backing the top of the ticket in that case. Let's talk about New Jersey, though, because some of the points that Ashley just brought up, it's a different story in New Jersey. It's tightening in New Jersey, right? Republicans got the closest they had come in years. You have a tight race now. Both sides spending more than $100 million. What's happening in New Jersey? Is it the taxes? Is it the cost of energy? Is it all that?
Well, let's start by saying that New Jersey should be going Republican this year if this was normal.
Because of the
normal circumstances. You have an
historically.
Historically, you have an incumbent Democratic governor who's been there for 8 years. He's not particularly popular. Since 1961 have you had a candidate of the same party succeed a two-term governor of that party. So by all accounts, Jack Ciattarelli should be winning. However, if you look at turnout in New Jersey today, and you look at where the turnout is, it is through the roof, exceeding 2021 in places like Hudson County, places like Essex County, in places like Middlesex County, Mercer County, all Democratic counties, all Democratic cities. And you are seeing tremendous turnout in places where Donald Trump did not do so poorly last year. And to Ashley's point, what you're seeing right now is a huge blowback against the president. There is no reason on earth why Jack Ciattarelli would not be governor.
Again, New Jersey is the typical Democratic state. So it actually shouldn't be expected for a Republican to win. So I don't believe you. MSNBC, you need more reasons.
Tonight, if Donald Trump were not in the White House.
Tricia, speaking of President Trump, there were no huge rallies this time around. There were no convention halls sold out, and he had backed Ciattarelli in New Jersey. How come he didn't appear with him? I know there was virtual appearances, but that's not really the Trump style.
I would agree. It's not necessarily Trump style. Look, we all know Donald Trump is not on the ballot, and sometimes his influence doesn't necessarily help the voting process, especially in a state. So you think
it was calculated?
He's always calculated. He knows exactly what he's doing. I think his endorsement of Jack Ciattarelli could not have been any stronger, at least what he put on Truth Social in that respect. But I think, despite the fact that he's not on the ballot, I am optimistic that this will be positive for the midterms for Republicans. Look, it's an off year. There's low propensity Republican voters who are not enticed to get out to the polls, but I still have a lot of hope for Ciattarelli.
Let's talk about New York City, Hogan. The president sort of putting his thumb on the scale, at least trying to.
So New York City, we have an independent, which really is a Democrat, running as an independent, right? And we got Mamdani, a Democratic socialist. And that's crazy. I think those are the only real two contenders. The Republican contender is not going anywhere because New York City is a Democratic city. So Republicans don't stand a chance. Let's see what they say. Where is Cuomo on this?
In the last day of this campaign yesterday, saying, vote for Andrew Cuomo, trying to knock out Mamdani. Does he have any effect in this race, and could he have possibly hurt Cuomo by getting involved?
I don't think he hurts Cuomo because I think Cuomo hurts himself. He was a horrific governor. I mean, his basic campaign was, I'm here to kill old people and grab ass. He was all out of old people, so he had a big problem moving forward. When you run campaigns, it matters how you run them and it matters what issues you're running on. It is obvious that Mamdani is someone that has captivated the hearts and minds of the Democrat Party. It looks like that's which way the party is moving, into that radical left.
And you know what's going to be good, though? We get to experience socialism in America. We get to see what socialism is like in America. So if socialism works in New York City, that means more and more people are going to acquire it and try to be socialist around the country. If socialism fails in New York City, well, then we're going to see more Republican winners or Republican candidates winning. Think about that.
Marxist-based, that's what they're going to be moving forward. And while they all move and support him at this point, the question becomes, once he gets elected, and I do believe he is going to get elected, what happens moving forward? Does New York backlash after the failures and go back to like a Giuliani type, someone who can actually clean up the city? Or do they keep moving forward and doubling down on socialism and Marxism? So it's more, for me, not about tonight and more so about where the party, the Democrat Party, goes in a place like New York that is wildly Democratic, of course.
This is the face of the Democratic Party today. All right. Let's help everybody. All right. Let's be more socialist. Give everybody a handout. All right. Cheap grocery stores, free buses. What else he talking about? No more rent hikes. So rent control. it's going to be a good time. Next 4 years, write it down.
Of course, moving forward, what will his blowback be against the party should he continue to, should he fail?
When you see Mamdani, do you think he's the future of the party? I mean, I will remind you, I mean, it was just 2020 when Democrats had a reckoning with the term socialist and Bernie Sanders, and that was one of the reasons why Joe Biden won that nomination. Or do you think he has the kind of energy and he's talking about things and he has the social media strategy to electrify Democrats?
No, I mean, I think there is a commonality between Bernie, who happens to be one of the most popular Democrats in the party right now. He's not actually in our party, but he's one of the most popular, well-known Democrats. And Mamdani is because they are hyper-focused on affordability. I'm not sure what is extremist and Marxist about being able to afford your rent, being able to afford groceries, being able to live a life with dignity. And that's what Democrats are focused on.
Leaving all that up for politicians to take care of is bad. What they should do is go to work, get a job. All the men that are unemployed or all the illegal immigrants that are coming here taking advantage of the government, it's a problem. Free money, it's a problem. So to get a socialist to give out more free stuff and more free money, it's a problem. Now, you may have some people saying, how is it a problem? How about inflation? How about the price of things go up? How about you get a lot of more people taking advantage of the government giving out free stuff? And that's where you get fraud and all the other nonsense. But let's see.
I just recently met with Ken Martin, who's the head of the DNC, and he said, listen, we're going in on all of these races. We're double downing, investing record numbers in both of these particular states, hyper focused on affordability. We're not even talking about Donald Trump unless it's connected to the economy. And it's proven to be a winning message.
The campus protest that happened last year across college campuses all across the country didn't help Democrats. And Mamdani sort of stumbled when it came to issues on Hamas and what was happening with the war in Gaza. He had to play cleanup a couple different times. Does that worry you that he's not ready for prime time?
I'm not concerned about that at all. I mean, the reality is people aren't hyper-focused on that issue now. What they're focused on is making ends meet. They're focused on surviving. And I think that's what he's tapped into. And in fact, it's almost a playbook from Donald Trump. And so the reality is it's a winning message, and we're seeing it play out right now.
But Linda Sarsour, for example, did come out and say, listen, we're holding this guy's feet to the fire. He said he wanted to dismantle the NYPD. We want that to happen. He said we want to take over a means of production. We want that to happen. If he doesn't do that, if he doesn't try to arrest Bibi Netanyahu when he comes to town. So this is where the party's headed, and it seems like the full-on embrace of that has occurred.
Julia,
Let me just say this. You guys hang out with Nick Fuentes, so I really don't want to hear any lectures from Republicans.
We don't hang out with Nick Fuentes, and we have always condemned it.
The president had dinner.
You guys endorse
the president had dinner with Nick Fuentes, so don't.
Here we go. Throwing Nick Fuentes into the mix, the number one hated by Democrats. And she just wanted to throw that name out there. Try to paint the Republican as evil. Well, you know what? Maybe they are. I don't know how Trump won. He came out of left field and beat all the politicians and became the president. So there's something to that. And they're talking about Mamdani being the Donald Trump or the Democratic Donald Trump. So they might be trying to pull off the same thing Trump did.
Tell me you don't hang out with him. Let me just say this. I will take that kind of advice from people that don't hang out with known anti-Semites like Nick Fuentes. What I will say is this. There is really not much difference between the affordability that Mikey Sherrill is talking about, the affordability that Zohran Mamdani is talking about, the affordability that Abigail Spanberger is talking about, and the affordability that Donald Trump talked about last year. Right. The difference is that he blew it. He was given a chance. And if you want to talk about socialism, let's talk about the $40 billion that we are bailing out your friends down in South America with. That's a big socialist bailout. Okay. The difference here is that you guys want to name call all you want, but you're not delivering on the promises that you made.
He calls himself a communist.
No, he calls himself a communist. He does not call himself a communist.
Guys, I love this conversation. Let's hold this up for 1 second. I want to go to Steve Kornacki real quick. Steve, I know you got a new update out of Virginia and some of the suburb counties out of D.C.
Yeah, I mean, we continue to, it's really kind of pouring in right now, and the news is very good if you're a Democrat and a supporter of Abigail Spanberger. We started to tell the story of Loudoun County, again, one of the largest in the state. We had 3/4 of the vote in the last time we checked in. We now have basically all the vote, and you can see, in fact, since the last time we checked in.
Again, Virginia, a Democratic state, and therefore that's why they're winning. It'll be a landslide or amazing if the Republican ticket wins. Let me just fast forward past this. and they need to get to what's important. New York City. How is the city doing?
Points. That was kind of a high watermark for Democrats. Spanberger has now exceeded that, again, with just about all the vote in here, leading by 29 points. That is incredibly good news for Democrats because they didn't want to see slippage up here in the big population center. We also now have a significant amount of vote in, a little bit more than a quarter, in the city of Virginia Beach, largest city in.
That's crazy that the blue is only like a small part. I guess it shows that there's more people living in the blue part than the red. So because people means votes, the blue Democratic ticket is winning.
A little more than a quarter of the vote in. You see Spanberger is leading this by just under 3 points. So again, that's what Democrats want to be seeing there. We continue to look at Chesterfield County, south of Richmond. Again, this is one of the largest counties in Virginia. Spanberger has improved her position since the last time we checked in here. So she continues to overperform. And again, how about this? This is again the biggest in the state. Fairfax County, we've got a third of the vote in. Now this is right outside Washington D.C. Massive, densely populated. You're looking at core Democratic territory. You talk about federal employees, shutdown implications. You're going to find an awful lot of them in Fairfax County. But again, just take a look here. Core Democratic, but it was 35 points Democratic last year. With a third of the vote in, you're now looking at a 47-point margin for Spanberger over Earl Sears. Is Earl Sears overperforming anywhere? Take a look at some.
Look at that. Harris won when she ran for president. So you know VA or Virginia is a strong Democratic ticket. There's no way a Republican is going to win.
Last year, Earl Sears needed to match the Trump number and really exceed it. Because remember, Trump lost statewide. Here she is in a Republican county where we have all of the vote in, falling short. We've seen a few other counties where this has happened. So Spanberger is exceeding Democratic levels from 2020 and 2024 in the biggest suburban counties in the state. She is leading in Virginia Beach. And so far, the Republican counties that have reported, you have Earl Sears not quite even reaching the Trump level from last year. So if you're a Democrat, you went into this tonight looking at polls that had Spanberger not just ahead, but ahead by comfortable margins. And everything we've seen in the returns now with 25% of the vote in statewide is consistent with that.
All right, Steve, thank you. For more special election night coverage ahead, former New York City mayoral candidate Brad Lander joins me next. We'll talk about his decision to team up with Mamdani. That's next. Stay with us.
Again, where is the New York City numbers? They're like waiting for the end to show how Cuomo might actually win. All right, what is this? Mayor Taylor Greene or Marjorie Taylor Greene? So, like I said, socialism is about to win. So we're going to get New York City, the first socialist city in America where they talk bad about socialism, but it's nice that we get to see it in practice, to see what's true and what's not true. Is it really bad for people or is it good for people? So I hope Mamdani wins.
Comptroller, can he actually pay for it?
Well, he's going to have to get Albany and the governor to put in the money, but she said she wants to get to universal child care as well. So yeah, governing is what we do in prose and campaigning is what we do in poetry.
So are you saying you don't believe him or?
No, I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, look, I cross-endorsed and then endorsed him in the general because I believe those are the right ideas. And I hope the governor will work with him, deliver the money New York City needs because parents are desperate to have their 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds someplace they can afford.
President Trump went on 60 Minutes. He called him a communist, which he's not. He's a socialist. He said yesterday, vote for Andrew Cuomo. Do you think there's a President Trump effect in this race?
Look, he said today that any Jew like me, I'm the highest ranking Jewish elected official in New York City government. He said any Jew that supports their own Mamdani is stupid. He doesn't get to decide how Jews make up their mind in this race. And yes, New Yorkers don't want Donald Trump telling us who to vote for. We don't want Stephen Miller telling us who to vote for. We don't want Elon Musk telling us who to vote for. We don't want the president sending troops here. We don't want him taking our money. And I think this will be a moment when New Yorkers stand up together.
You brought up your favorite.
Yes, we do need Trump sending the troops into Harlem. And so all the tough areas like Brooklyn and Queens, all the tough areas in those parts of the city where we need soldiers to take care of the crimes. So yes, we do need Trump putting his hand in the problem.
If I do want to ask you, Mamdani has been criticized and called out in his campaign for not condemning the phrase globalized intifada and for dodging questions about Hamas disarmament in a debate. As a Jewish American, does that give you pause? Do you know who you're getting into business with?
Let's be clear. He's condemned Hamas and the attacks of October 7th. He never said globalize the intifada. And then after listening to Jews talk about what it means to us, he started discouraging people from saying it.
He's had some hiccups and it has been unclear, to be fair.
But look, on a primary night, he said, I'm going to go out and meet Jewish New Yorkers. He came to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services with me. He's talked to dozens and dozens of groups. He's going to work hard every day to keep Jewish New Yorkers and all New Yorkers safe.
He wants the corporate tax to be on par with New Jersey. That's exactly the reason why they're fighting in New Jersey right now in that governor's race. Is that a good idea? Again, you're the comptroller.
Well, it's really not what you're getting. I think if we increase the corporate tax rate in order to provide childcare for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, then we'll see that in productivity and employers will see it because their workers are desperate for childcare.
Brad, it was great to talk to you. I'll talk to you in a couple months. We'll see how this ends up and then we'll talk to see how the results are. But great to talk to you tonight. Thanks for being
so
here.
much.
Steve Kornacki, he's still in the House. He is working that board. The votes are coming in. He's getting excited. What do you got in Virginia?
Yeah, so you can see here we've had more of the Republican areas of the state that have come in that has brought that statewide number inside of 10 points. Doesn't really change the broader dynamics that we've been discussing in terms of where Spanberger is overperforming. It just means a lot more of the sort of small rural areas areas that are very Republican have come in. There's still a ton of vote to come out of the Northern Virginia area and around Richmond. And one of the questions beyond the governor's race, I think it's gotten national attention out of Virginia, is the race for attorney general. The Democrat there with those text messages from a couple years ago where he, talked about the idea of killing children and terrible, terrible things. And so the idea of would he lose even if Spanberger's having a good night? Spanberger is having a good night right now. Take a look. How many voters were willing to vote for Spanberger, but not for the Democratic candidate for Attorney General Jay Jones? Well, there certainly are some of them. That race now, Jones with a very narrow statewide lead over the incumbent, Jason Miyares, about a point right now. What's interesting is we're tracking around the state. Where is Jones running the closest with Spanberger, and where is the most separation? And a pattern's emerging, and it really has to do with the counties that we've been talking about. You're seeing the biggest gap between them. I can actually, instead of circling it, I can show it to you. You're seeing it in a place like Loudoun County, a 19-point margin here in the race for Attorney General. When you look at the governor's race, a 29-point margin. So there is a 10-point gap right there. You're seeing something similar in Chesterfield County here. It's a 15-point lead for Spanberger there in the governor's race. You take a look in the Attorney General's race, it's only a 3-point. Now, what do those places have in common? And we're seeing this in some others. These are places that have large populations of suburbanites, white-collar professionals. These are folks who are culturally liberal, have
Steve, I'm going to interrupt you here. NBC News can now project the winner of the Virginia governor's race is Abigail Spanberger. NBC News now projecting her as the winner of the Virginia governor's race. Steve, we were just talking about this throughout the night right now.
Again, Virginia, a Democratic state. So this is not a big surprise. I don't know why it's celebrating so hard.
Doge cuts, how the government shut down, how that all affected the people that live around D.C. and how it affected their vote. And again, President Trump, he wasn't in this race. He didn't endorse Earl Sears. He didn't even mention her name. It was a very tough race for Republicans there. Too early to call in the Attorney General's race so far. And Steve, before you go, because I want to talk to two great political minds in about 30 seconds, explain to our viewers why we're just talking Virginia and we haven't talked about New Jersey or New York City or California yet.
Yeah, Tom, it's certainly not for lack of desire on my part, but in 6 minutes, the polls are going to close in New Jersey.
All right, 6 minutes coming up. Let's see what happens.
And this thing is going to start to light up like a Christmas tree at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's going to happen out in California. 9 p.m. That's going to happen in New York City. So, yeah, we got a storyline to follow here, the AG's race. But in a few minutes, that governor's race in New Jersey, which we expect to be the closer one and where Republicans think they have a chance,
great,
is going to take center stage.
Steve Kornacki, thank you. We got about 3 minutes left. We got two of my favorites here. Moderator of Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, and NBC News senior Washington correspondent, Hallie Jackson. Real quick, guys, what have we learned up to this point?
A couple of things. Abigail Spanberger's message on the economy, affordability, clearly resonated. The Trump alliance, which included an increase in Latino voters of color, didn't necessarily hold. We saw that in counties like Loudoun County. Steve will break that down even more. And then the question that Democrats are going to ask themselves tomorrow, what can they take from this victory into the midterm?
Okay, then Hallie, a complicated question for you. So here we go.
Oh,
you got three blue states. You got California, you got New Jersey, and you got Virginia.
Sure.
We can debate if two of those are purple, but they're blue states because of what happened in the presidential race. And then you have New York City. So can we draw any narrative from this for the midterms? Because New York City is not really the suburbs of America, and we're talking two blue states.
100%. But think about what all those three races have in common if, in fact, the Democrats end up winning, because it's a great question, and here's the through line that I'm thinking about. It's the economy. All of those candidates, the Democratic candidates, are running on affordability messages in different ways, right? They look different when they're coming out of Mamdani's mouth versus Abigail Spanberger's mouth, but that is still a through line here. So I've been talking to smart strategists on both sides of the aisle who say that may be the biggest takeaway for 2026. Can I tell you the question that I still have on Virginia, though? What's the margin going to be? Because that's going to tell us a lot about, I think, where this goes. And I spoke with one Republican who said, listen, if this is a smash in Virginia, a smash in Jersey, and Mamdani wins big, on the economy and on that kind of messaging, President Trump may have to think about how he's messaging on the economy if it's not resonating with some of these more moderates.
We're watching some of the celebrations at the Spanberger watch party. Kristen, real quick to you, the president ran on the economy. He won on the economy. He's delivered on immigration. He's delivered on crime to his voters. But the economy is the big unknown.
The economy is still the top issue for voters, Tom. And he, by his own admission, said he got elected because he was going to bring down grocery prices. If you look at the prices at the grocery store, a lot of prices have gone up, from meat to bacon, just to name a few. And so I do.
Only a couple of things have gone up, not everything. And things are only going to get better. All these people want to do is talk bad about the Republican ticket and Trump. But things are getting better, in my opinion.
Think that there's going to be a hard look inside the White House at how they are handling grocery prices, the prices that people are paying, inflation, and of course, the backdrop to all of that, the president's tariff policy.
All right, Hallie, we got about 40 seconds left.
Lay it on me.
Give me 20 seconds. What do we expect tonight? What are we watching tonight from your coverage with Kristen over here?
Three big things. Number one, margins. What are they if, in fact, the Democrats do end up pulling it out? And obviously any surprises. Two, this messaging on the economy, affordability. And 3, what you've been talking about with Steve, the Trump coalition. Do Latinos, do non-white voters in New Jersey, non-college educated voters in New Jersey, do they go for Chitterelli? Do they flip? Do they go for Mikey Sherrill here? And what about those low propensity voters, folks who don't turn out? Some interesting numbers we're seeing in the exits there, Tom.
Yeah.
Let's see how that plays out.
And the big unknown, Prop 50 in California. It's going to be a huge vote that could change the entire direction of Congress. What are you going to say, Kristen?
It could.
20 seconds.
Gavin Newsom says it's going to pass. He says it's going to be a big night for Democrats. We'll have to see.
All right, and we are just 2 minutes away from our next major poll closing in New Jersey. Hallie and Kristen pick up our special election night coverage right after this short break. We're going to have Kornacki. We're going to have the polls, the exit polls, too, where the country is headed, plus what's happening in California, New Jersey, and Virginia. It's all coming up. Don't go anywhere. Our night is just getting started here on NBC News Now.
Where the country is headed. We're headed towards a Republican ticket, or let's just say being more conservative. All right? The Democratic Party are losing their mind. If you're a Democrat, you need to work on it. You're losing your mind. It's a little crazy. But I chose my thought. My name is Noel. If you enjoyed the stream, give it a thumbs up. But the reality is that the Democratic ticket are only winning what they're expected to win. No surprises. So let's see what happens in New York. If we get a Democratic socialist, I want to see that socialism in practice. Let's see what really happens when a city goes socialist. Does it work? Are the people celebrating? Why is my phone signing? Are people going to be happier in the city because the government is helping them with everything? You know what I mean? No one talking about socialism in practice. Socialism is something we learn in school and we read the books about it, how bad it is, how it's going to destroy the city. But it's all in theory. It's all written in paper. They haven't experienced somebody like Mandami in the city who's actually going to do great by helping others, right? Free buses, cheap groceries. Come on now. No more expensive eggs or meat. And it doesn't matter what's going on because Mandami is going to lower the prices and get us free or cheap groceries. Those grocery stores are going to be packed. He's going to have like one store per borough. So one in Manhattan, one in the Bronx, one in Brooklyn, one in Queens, and one in Staten Island. It's going to be crazy. Run for your loaf of bread. It's going to be the best time in New York City. So if socialism works, you're going to see more and more socialism prop up around the country. Because a lot of people follow what's going on with New York. So again, if it works, we're going to see free buses everywhere, free groceries, no more rent hike across the country. Trump is going to look bad, and everybody else is going to look bad who talk bad about socialism. And that's what's really going to happen. We need to see it in practice. We need to see socialism. So I hope Mandami wins. I don't live in the city right now, but
Mamdani.
That could echo all across the country, and why what happens in California tonight could impact the nation for years to come. NBC's election night special coverage begins right now.
yeah. All right, let's hear in New York. What's going on? Are we now a socialist country? Because New York City is the beginning. Again, if New York City wins and socialism works, we will become a socialist country.
Of election night, it is a huge night with millions of voters making their voices heard all across the country for the first time since Donald Trump's return to the White House. And so far, voters tonight are signaling their frustration with the president based on NBC News exit polling. And just moments ago, the NBC News decision desk projecting that Democrat Abigail Spanberger is the winner of the Virginia governor's race. The government shutdown is looming large for the state, and at midnight, it will officially become the longest shutdown in American history. Take a look. These are live pictures from Spanberger election headquarters as her supporters celebrate the news. It is now just a few moments after 8 p.m. on the East Coast, and polls have just closed in other big governor's races tonight. New Jersey, right now, that race is too early to call. Republicans are hoping they can lock in gains President Trump made in New Jersey last November. We'll see in the next few hours if they can do it and flip that seat. We're also counting down to results out of New York City, which has vaulted 34-year-old Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani into the national spotlight. Polls close there in just under an hour. We have every single angle covered tonight. Our team of NBC reporters live at election night headquarters for all the big campaigns, and also covering the very latest from the White House as the results pour in. My NBC News colleague Hallie Jackson will be alongside me all night analyzing all the data from our NBC News exit polls. And we've got the ultimate election expert, NBC's Steve Kornacki. Where else? At the big board, breaking down the results as they come in. And our team of election night insiders here in studio. I do have to get right to NBC News chief data analyst Steve Kornacki for a look at where we stand on the key races and what he's going to be watching for in the coming hours. And this big call, Steve, Abigail Spanberger has done it. She's clinched it. The only question now, what exactly will the margin be?
Yeah, exactly. And so you can see in the statewide tally right now, it's 10 points for Spanberger over Earl Sears. And again, this is sort of the standard Democratic victory model in New Jersey, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The standard Democratic victory model in Virginia, except Spanberger is doing even better than Democrats have done lately in a lot of these places. Chiefly, here we go. All the vote is in now in Loudoun County up here. This is one of the biggies in the state. Spanberger's going to win this by 29 points. You know, big bedroom communities, suburban, exurban area just outside Washington, D.C. The key here, when you look at this statewide margin, statewide tally, and you ask about the margin, what we've seen happen in the last few minutes is all the red you see, sort of rural areas, Southwest Virginia, South Side, that have started to fill in. They've allowed Earl Sears to chip away a bit at that statewide lead. But I want you to keep in mind, so much of the population is right around here. And you go into a county like Prince William County, there's still 150,000 votes that are going to come out of this county. Look at Spanberger's lead right there. You can imagine what that's going to do to her statewide total. This is the biggest of the big. Fairfax County, we don't even have half the vote in here right now. And Abigail Spanberger, with a 50-point lead. So you expect her, I think, certainly to maintain and maybe even build on that lead a bit. And the suspense here in Virginia really is going to be, does she have a big enough pad that she can carry over the top the beleaguered Democratic candidate for Attorney General? And you can see that one is a squeaker right now. Jay Jones with those text messages, those inflammatory text messages that came to light. He's barely up right now in the statewide tally. So that one of the reasons why that Spanberger total becomes so important. And I just wanted to check in because the polls closed in New Jersey, and we did just get a whole bunch of votes here statewide. Look at that. More than 200,000 votes just came in. This is a big one. Now, this is interesting. So this is Hudson County. Okay. We're talking about directly across from New York City, the Hudson River. You're talking about a bunch of mid-sized, Jersey City is the biggest city here, and a bunch of mid-sized cities with very large Hispanic populations. Union City, New Jersey, West New York, North Bergen. This is significant because this is one of the counties, one of the biggest Trump surprises in the entire country in 2024 was in this county. He cut his margin. He still lost it, but he was closer than anybody thought they'd ever see a Republican come in this county. Well, you can see tonight with 40% of the vote now, we think this is the early and mail vote, so this is probably going to be more friendly, a little bit more friendly to Democrats than the same-day vote, but a 58-point margin here right off the bat for Mikey Sherrill. Again, you take a look here. This was 28 last year. This was an incredible performance for a Republican. One of the major questions in this race in New Jersey, and one of the major questions for American politics coming out of the 24 election, was the Hispanic inroads that Donald Trump made. Could another Republican take them and replicate them without Trump on the ballot? Here's a test tonight. Jack Ciattarelli in Hudson County. We got 40% of the vote. Again, I think a lot of this is going to be early vote and mail-in vote. So we'll see if the same day changes the complexion of this vote at all. But you're seeing a 58-point advantage here from Mikey Sherrill early. So Ciattarelli not generating that Trump-level support here. Just taking a quick look. Bergen County, big classic suburban county here. This is one that we can show you, in fact. Last year, Kamala Harris won this by 3 points. We just got in one big batch here. So, again, you can expect this is early vote. This is mail vote coming in right now. Sherrill matching that. We take a look down here. Ocean County. This is one of the biggest Republican plurality-producing counties in the United States of America that you're looking at right here. Look at this margin Donald Trump got. Look how many people live in Ocean County. A lot of Republican counties around the country are small and they are rural. Ocean County is very big for a Republican county. This is an area where Jack Ciattarelli wants to absolutely run up the score. Now, again, you're looking at
I wonder why they don't just post the numbers for New York City. Like they're waiting for the end, or they're waiting for them to declare who the winner is to then post the numbers. I mean, they just don't want to put the numbers out so we could at least anticipate who's going to win. Why do we have to wait? The audience has to wait till the winner gets declared. And they're going to declare, I think it's at 9 p.m. and 8 p.m. now. This sucks. I hate anticipation. Quit talking about other states and let's go straight to New York City, man.
Jersey, and what we're watching for in New Jersey, we talk about the Trump coalition, which does include the fact that he was able to bring out more Latino voters, more voters of color. Passaic County is going to be critical tonight and a big test of that question.
Absolutely. I have been eyeing this every time as we're talking to see. This is Passaic County right here, and I can't wait to see that one fill in. No results, but I could just show you. Donald Trump won this last year. You ask anyone in New Jersey if they ever thought they'd see a Republican presidential candidate carry Passaic again. This was an unthinkable result. 40% Hispanic in this county. We'll get a very interesting result when this comes in.
All right. I just talk about exit polls, too, when it comes to this issue, because we're seeing some interesting stuff on that front. Steve, first of all, love you, obsessed with you. It's going to be such an interesting night as we're looking at all this stuff coming in. But when you look at what we're seeing in the exit polls, again, caveat, it is early. We're going to see more of these numbers come in. But in New Jersey, when you look at some of this, 65%, I don't know if we have the graphic we can pull up here, but you saw the vote breaking, obviously, from Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, the Latino vote. Same thing. Jack Ciattarelli was sitting at about 30% on that in the early exit polls in New Jersey. So it's an interesting tell. I think the more interesting data point is going to be what happens in some of those counties you're talking about here. But when you look at this question of the Trump coalition, it's in talking with Democratic strategists who've been involved in this race and Republican strategists. Low propensity voters as well. Are they showing up when Donald Trump is not officially the name on the ballot there?
And it's the impact on the economy, which is still the number one issue for these voters that we're seeing in these exit polls.
We'll talk about that more too. I'm gonna do some walking here, Chris. I'm gonna walk over to that wall and talk you through it. Yeah.
Walk on over. All right. While you're doing that, Hallie, let's go out to NBC's Ryan Nobles. He is at Democrat Abigail Spanberger's headquarters in Richmond, Virginia. Ryan, the celebrations must be beginning there.
You're absolutely right, Kristen. I've covered 5 Virginia gubernatorial elections. I've been in rooms where the candidate didn't win. I've been in rooms where the candidate has won. And you knew right from the start that Democrats felt like they were going to have a good night. The second the doors opened, people came pouring in. You can see behind me, it is a packed shoulder-to-shoulder crowd. And when NBC News first made that call that Abigail Spanberger was going to be elected the first female governor in Virginia history, the crowd absolutely erupted. Happy to have the governor's mansion back after 4 years of Republicans being in charge here in Virginia. Now, there's a long list of reasons why Democrats believe that they were successful in Virginia. I don't know if they thought they'd be this successful. Many of the Democratic operatives I talked to believe that the call could come early. Few of them thought that it would come before 8 o'clock. So that just shows a sign of Spanberger's strengths. But over and over again, there were 2 issues that Democrats pointed to as to why they thought Spanberger was going to win here tonight. The first was that she's just a good candidate. She's someone that had a very strong personal story, a former law enforcement officer.
She's a Democrat.
Who served what was a very swing district for many years in Washington, and that she had a message, secondly, that really resonated with Virginia voters at a time where they wanted to hear it. Virginians have been very frustrated with the early days of the Trump administration, and in particular, the way that he has gone and worked to dismantle the federal government, which is acutely impactful in Virginia, which has one of the highest percentages of federal workers in the country. And it's not just direct federal workers, but it's those ancillary jobs connected to the federal government contractors, people that run diners outside of federal agencies. These were all people that were feeling the impacts, not just of the government shutdown, but the decisions made by the Trump administration to scale back the federal workforce leading into the government shutdown and the other decisions made by the Trump administration. So there are certainly some good takeaways that Democrats can take from what we saw here tonight in Virginia in terms of economic messaging, kitchen table issues, avoiding getting too far into the weeds in these cultural issues, which Spanberger's opponent, Winsome Sears Earle, really kind of made the hallmark of her campaign. But at the same time, It's not necessarily something that can be extrapolated out or duplicated across the country because of the way that Virginia is so heavily influenced by what happens with the federal government. So no doubt, though, Virginia Democrats had a plan. They executed that plan. And Kristen, tonight, they were very successful.
They certainly were. We will continue to track what that final margin turns out being. Worth noting, former President Barack Obama out campaigning with Abigail Spanberger. President Trump did not endorse Winsome Earl Sears. All right, Ryan, thank you so much for that. Joining me now is Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. He has been a big supporter of the mayoral candidate here in New York City, Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist. Senator, thank you so much for joining me on this election night.
My pleasure.
So let's just set the scene. Polls close in just under an hour now in New York. How are you feeling? You think that Mr. Mamdani is going to pull it out tonight?
Well, as I understand it, the turnout is extraordinary. And as somebody who very much believes in democracy, worries about the future of American democracy, I am glad to see that the turnout, I think, is the largest in 30 or 40 years. So that's a good sign.
My question for you, Senator, if he is in fact successful tonight, what, if anything, can and should Democrats nationally take from his victory? We just called Virginia for Abigail Spanberger for the governor's race. These are very similar messages in some ways on the economy, that they want to make the life more affordable for their constituents, and yet very different visions for how to do that. What should Democrats take from it?
I think you're right. We will see what the election results are in New York City before I pontificate. But I think Mamdani has run an extraordinary campaign. And one lesson that must be learned is that if you have a message that speaks to working people, to ordinary people, that you are prepared to take on the oligarchs in New York City. They have spent millions and millions of dollars trying to defeat him. And what he is saying is that in New York, and in fact throughout the country, we need a government that represents working people, the middle class, who are having a hard time now being able to afford housing, childcare, transportation, health care. That we need a government that represents them and not the people on top. I think the message, if he does well, is that people are tired of establishment politics. They understand that in America, the people on top have never, ever had it so good, while 60% of us living paycheck to paycheck. They want real change and candidates with the courage to take on the big money interests.
Senator, it's Hallie Jackson. Thanks for being on with us tonight. Question for you, because to your point here on the working class and on Democrats appealing to them, we have seen voters today in New York City tell our exit pollers again and again they care about affordability. They think that the cost of their housing is a problem. The vast majority said that. But they also, based on these early exit polls, suggested more than half of voters in these early exit polls suggested that Mr. Mamdani's policies were not realistic. This has obviously been an attack line from Andrew Cuomo in this race. How does Zohran Mamdani combat that perception that he is putting out some of these pie-in-the-sky ideas and doesn't have a realistic way to back that up? How does he combat that if he does do well?
To make sure that people in New York, and in my view, all over the country, in the richest country in the history of the world, can afford housing. That is not a radical idea. What is a radical idea, if I may say so, is Trump giving $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and throwing 15 million people off the health care they have. That is a radical idea. Thinking that climate change is a hoax is a radical idea. We cannot become accustomed to a nation.
Climate change is a hoax, in my opinion. Wasting billions of dollars and millions to fix the climate, that's insane.
In which one guy on top, Mr. Musk, owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American society. So I don't agree with you. It is not radical.
He earned it. How about that? How about that should motivate more people to earn their wealth?
To say that we should have the best child care system in the world if we believe in our kids and if we believe in the future of this country. It's not radical to say that we should have efficient and fast and free bus service. These are not radical ideas. What is radical is
It is radical. And it's funny. My brother works the bus in New York City. So that means he's going to be giving away free bus rides, or he doesn't have a choice, but he's going to be the one driving those free buses. That's funny.
We have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. That's got to change.
Senator Kristen, again, quick question. You raised President Trump. He has threatened to pull federal funding from New York City if Mr. Mamdani is elected. Does that concern you? Do you think that that's a realistic threat? And do you think he may have shaken up this race with that last-minute endorsement of Andrew Cuomo?
We will find out. Look, it's not just New York. He's threatening not to fund programs in Vermont and California. For the first time in the history of this country, you have a president who's acting so illegally, so unconstitutionally. It is insane. What this guy is saying is, oh, you voted against me, therefore you can't get federal funds. Is that really the United States of America? Is that really the way a president should behave? No president, not Republican or Democrat before this, has ever suggested that.
Senator, if in fact Mr. Mamdani is successful, I wonder what you would like him to work on day one. What should his day one priority be? As Hallie was just noting, he has laid out
free $2,000 income tax to every New Yorker. Whoo, that's billions.
A long agenda, which includes free public transportation, government-owned supermarkets, government childcare. What should be issue one for him?
Well, look, this guy has run a brilliant campaign, and I have every reason to believe he's going to do a great job as mayor if he wins. So I'll let him decide what his priorities are. But I would simply say that right now,
all sanctuary cities should be centered in New York. Every illegal migrant should run down to New York to get all the free stuff that the government has for them.
in Vermont, New York City, all over this country, we have a child care system which is absolutely broken at a time when psychologists tell us that the years 0 through 4, Kristen, are the most important for intellectual and emotional development for human beings. So making sure that every kid in this country, in New York City, gets the proper early childhood care that they need, to me, is enormously important in New York.
So all the moms are able to do OnlyFans at home with no kids interruption, because you'll be sending their kids off for childcare. Man, so many free moms are going to be available in New York City. Everybody run down.
Can set the example for the rest of the country.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for being with us on this election night. We will continue to watch the returns. We really appreciate your perspective, Senator. Thank you. We do want to get out to New Jersey now, where those polls just closed. NBC's Stephanie Gosk is at Mikey Sherrill's headquarters in New Brunswick, and NBC's Julie Sirkin is at Jack Ciattarelli's headquarters in Bridgewater. Thank you both for being here. Stephanie, let me start with you. What is the mood there? How optimistic are they?
Kristen, the mood's good. I mean, you saw those numbers coming in. People here are getting very excited. You know, it was interesting listening to Bernie Sanders talk about Zohran Mamdani, and then compare that just over the Hudson River to the candidate for governor for the Democratic Party here in this state, Mikey Sherrill, former Navy pilot, federal prosecutor, moderate Democrat who flipped a red county in 2018 to go to Congress. She is a very different kind of candidate. I had a chance to talk to her today, and I said, so which brand is it? Is it the Mamdani brand, or is it the Mikey Sherrill brand? And she said that one of the things you may be able to take away from this election is which brand works better. But one of the things they are watching very closely here, and they have reason to feel good about it right now, is turnout and enthusiasm. And second to that is what is driving people to the polls. And there's a number that you should focus on in the exit polls, that 38% of people said they came to the polls because they were opposing Trump. Now that's important because Mikey Sherrill has tied this campaign and her criticism of her Republican opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, to Donald Trump, accusing Donald Trump of making the affordability so difficult in this state. That's the principal issue for people in New Jersey. On the flip side, you have the Republican candidate saying, well, hang on, there's been a Democrat at the governor's office in this state for 8 years, and Donald Trump has been in office for 11. So they really do believe in a lot of ways that their success tonight hinges on whether people believe that the lack of affordability in this state is because of Donald Trump, and because Jack Ciattarelli is attached to him, that they should vote for Mikey Sherrill.
Well, and Steph, you take me perfectly over to Julie, who's at Jack Ciattarelli's campaign headquarters, because this has been the challenge for Jack Ciattarelli. He has, in some instances, embraced President Trump. He has not campaigned with President Trump, even though there were some telecalls that took place in the closing hours of this campaign. And this is really the first referendum on how voters feel about President Trump, clearly looming large over this race in New Jersey, Julie.
Absolutely, Kristen, and that is exactly the question that I asked Jack Ciattarelli yesterday when we were at a bar in Totowa, New Jersey at 10:30 in the morning where the Guinness was flowing. As a Jersey girl, only New Jersey could you see that the day before the election. And he told me my opponent wants to make this race all about Donald Trump, putting some daylight between him and the president that he has backed this time around, different than his last 2 runs for governor, and also a president that has clearly endorsed him. The issues that Stephanie laid out are affordability. New Jersey has some of the highest property taxes in the country. I heard that from voters on both sides of the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans, telling me they love New Jersey, but they feel like they are getting priced out. They might have to move because they can't afford to live here. Cheryl has promised to freeze electricity prices. A Republican voter today telling me what good does that do? The prices are already so high. But certainly Ciattarelli feeling like he can ride in some ways the president's coattails. As you heard Steve Kornacki lay out all night, Trump was able to really eat into the margins as far as blue states goes in New Jersey, probably the most of any. You see the energy in the room behind me. The polls just closed. They just started letting people in here. There are a lot of MAGA hats. There are a lot of Make New Jersey Great Again hats. Ciattarelli's campaign feeling positive. But today is all about turnout for him, not only in Somerset County, where I am right now, also in Ocean County, a red county, as you heard Steve talking about there, but also Passaic. That's where I was yesterday, talking to primarily Latino voters, where Ciattarelli has focused a large portion of his time during this campaign, knowing that he needs to win over those voters, just like the president did in November, in order to have a shot at winning this race. One of the advantages that Ciattarelli has here, similar to Spanberger in Virginia, he can present himself as the change candidate. Phil Murphy has been in office for 2 terms. Ciattarelli can say that Cheryl will be a continuation of that, and hopefully in his mind he'll win tonight because of it.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much. We'll continue to check back in with you throughout the night. Let's get back to NBC News Chief Data Analyst Steve Kornacki, who has some new insights into the results so far in New Jersey, and Republican Jack Ciattarelli. What do you have, Steve?
Okay, so what we have, Kristen, is a quarter of the vote statewide, and you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, Mikey Sherrill is absolutely clobbering Jack Ciattarelli. Well, what we don't have yet anywhere in the state are the returns for votes that were cast today at the polls, which we expect to be more Republican friendly than the votes that were cast by mail or that were cast early in the early voting process. Yeah. So what's been reported out in these counties is some combination of the vote by mail, which we know to be generally a very Democratic favorable type of vote, and early in person. So essentially what you're seeing here is the best that it's going to be for Mikey Sherrill in the counties that have reported so far. So I'll give you an example. Take a look down here. This is Burlington County. So you're talking about, it's geographically big, but a lot of the population is sort of along the Delaware River in here, outside of Philadelphia's suburbs, bedroom communities. Okay, so about half the vote is in, and Sherrill's winning this by 31 points. That is mail vote. That is early in-person vote. What's now going to happen is the rest of the vote's going to fill in. It's going to be the vote that was cast today, Election Day. What does Ciattarelli need to do here? He probably doesn't need to win Burlington County, but I can show you this was 17 points last year, and it was 7 points when Jack Ciattarelli nearly won the governorship 4 years ago. So the same day vote, Ciattarelli, you can see, is going to have to win it by a very big margin, and he's got to get it down at least to this level where it was 4 years ago. So we're going to be keeping an eye. What does that same day vote look like when it comes in Burlington County? Is Ciattarelli winning it by a wide margin? You're going to see that up here in Bergen County. We have all the early vote. We have the vote by mail in Bergen County. That's a massive lead for Mikey Sherrill. That lead is going to come down as the same day.
So this is only the mail-in votes that are in, 25%. That's crazy. That's what they say. Elections are fake. They don't look real. They haven't even counted what has come in yet. So, got to give it up to Trump. These elections don't seem real.
Going to have a chance. This should be a double-digit Republican county. Again, this is the vote by mail. This is the early vote. This is as good as it gets for Sherrill. The story of the rest of the night in Hunterdon and all of these other counties where you're seeing vote so far is going to be Ciattarelli-friendly vote. How friendly is that vote? Is it enough to hit some of the benchmarks that I'm laying out for him? That's what the governorship in New Jersey is going to hinge on. And by the way, we don't see it yet. I just want to tell you, I am really looking for the results out of this county. This is a big suburban county here. You've got a mix of wealthy suburban towns. You've got some blue-collar towns as well. Donald Trump won here by 3 points. Typically, this is a key county for Republicans if they're going to have a chance statewide. The twist in this county and why I think it's so important is Morris County is what Mikey Sherrill represents in Congress.
All right, I'm going to get out of here. I've been here for almost an hour. And they're being slick, not talking about the New York City elections. They're holding off to the end just to say who won and who didn't win. But who do you think is going to win? Again, I want to see a socialist city to see how a modern-day socialist city works with a politician that just wants to help people. Free buses, cheap groceries, free childcare. What else? A bunch of free stuff from the government. So it should be a great time to be in New York City. With that said, I'm going to step out because I've been sitting here for way too long. And I got to move. Let me take a few steps out. If you enjoyed the video, my name is Noel. Give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Purple on land.